But before we get into this video, I want you guys to remember to like, subscribe, keep pushing our videos. It helps us out tremendously. And I know, shout us out. And I know that we post on a,
not a regular basis.
No. Alright, let's do it again. All right. I like that shit.
Tied up by Green. Throws it back up top. James puts up the three. Oh, it's good! LeBron James from downtown.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of 3 Guys with Mike. I'm William, joined by the man himself.
Little man, since that's what everybody outside this whole thing calls me of.
Yeah, everyone in life calls you Little Man. No one refers to you as Aaron. So, fun fact, he gets mad when we refer to him as Aaron, which doesn't make sense.
It's not even that. It's the fact that I don't answer to it because I'm so used to Little Man now.
But today we're going to go ahead and get into the AFC and the NFC North. And I think these are two really good divisions. But before we get into this, I think they're really good divisions. I don't think they're the best.
The North only has...
I don't think the North is like the best division, but I think, entertaining.
Future's there, though.
Yeah. But before we get into this video, before we get into our takes, I want you guys to remember to like, subscribe, to keep on pushing our videos, to share, give us feedback on anything, make sure to comment. And I know that we post at kind of like random times, random days. We're never really consistent with our upload times. So to help with that, you guys should go ahead and turn on the notifications. And it's going to help you guys out tremendously. It's going to help us out tremendously.
And thank you all for the shout-outs, too. On our
Instagram. Thank you guys for the shout-outs. It really helps that we're not even asking you guys to shout us out. You guys are doing it. So thank you guys a lot. But let's go ahead and get into the video. So, Little Man, I'm going to start off with you.
We're still going 4-1, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I'm going to start off with the NFC North.
Man, this division. I have the Detroit Lions for obvious reasons at 4. Dan Campbell, I think, is a great head coach. He has a past in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff, who I thought was a good quarterback for the Rams, but as my mom and my whole family are Rams fans, they really didn't like him all that much. I mean, some of them did, some of them didn't. It's a love-hate relationship, but they draft Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have DeAndre Swift, all the young pieces put together. It's just sad to see them who's in the division. You got the Bears, who are up and coming, the Packers, who have been good for multiple years. And then the Vikings. Well, I think it's going to be a very good, interesting team to watch this year.
I agree with you. I think the Vikings are going to be interesting.
Something tells me that you don't have the Lions at 4.
I do have the Lions at 4. Why would I not have the Lions at 4? They're the Lions. Again, I don't like this team very much. Simply because I feel like they waste people's careers all the time. So, yeah, I have the Lions at number 4. And I think Jared Goff, as Little Man was saying, I think he's a really good quarterback. But for the Rams, he wasn't a good fit because he couldn't really take them over the top. And I think they need that elite quarterback to take them over the top.
I think he was treated unfair, too.
Yeah, I think he was definitely treated unfair by, the NFL and the respect that he gets. And by the fans as well. And Jared Goff, let's not forget, had a phenomenal game with a broken thumb in Green Bay. Well, not phenomenal, but he played well as he could have.
A lot of quarterbacks do that.
Yeah, so I think he gets too much hate. I think they went with the safe, and as people like to say, the non-sexy pick. They drafted Penei Sewell. I don't know how to say his
non-sexy.
I don't know how to say his first name, but they drafted him. It's gonna obviously solidify your offensive line, which is maybe the most important position group in the NFL. And Jared Goff last year had pretty decent stats. He had almost 4,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. And again, I do think his stats are going to plummet because he doesn't have the weapons and the head coach that he did in LA. But I still think he's going to have some good games. I still think he's going to have some competitive games. But it's just, again, he's in that division. It kind of sucks for him that he's on this Lions team. And the Lions are known for not being great by any means. So yeah, I have them finishing 4th. And I think it's just going to be interesting to see how their chemistry is. And how this organization is turned around by Dan Campbell. Because, again, he is a fiery head coach.
We've seen all the reports about the fights, and he's just like basically instigating every single one.
Yeah, like he's just one of those head coaches who he's going to be there with the players, and he's a locker room guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And one more thing, mark my words, I'll look straight into the camera when I say this. I think Tyler Hawkinson makes that jump this year higher than he did last year, because as I've seen Jared Goff, every year he was on the Rams, he got closer and closer with his tight ends. I think him and Tyler Higbee were roommates for the whole time he was there. Mm-hmm. Him and Gerald Everett created a big bond those last 2 years. And I think that Tyler Hawkinson becomes a top 5 tight end.
Ooh, top 5 tight end this year.
Top 5 tight end.
Okay, Patrick, go ahead and jot that down. At the end of
Hot
the
take.
season,
Drop the fire right here in my lap.
yeah, at the end of the season, we're gonna revisit that. So go ahead and with your third team.
The third team, I don't think you're going to like this one because you're a big fan of him. The Chicago Bears. They pick up Justin Fields, who I think is a phenomenal quarterback. In my eyes, was the number 1 quarterback. It's just another thing with Matt Nagy. I don't like him as their head coach. I'll be completely honest.
Really?
I don't like him. Simply because of the fact, in 2018, we saw them, they got carried by their defense. Mitch Trubisky didn't really do a lot for them, and I get that. But this year they have Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. I'm just not sure if Matt Nagy's the guy to kind of shape up the way that his career is going to go. Don't get me wrong, I still think that Justin Fields is going to take over as a starter this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think their defense will be good considering the fact that they lost Kyle Fuller, but they have a developing cornerback in Jalen Johnson. But I have them third because I just don't see them being better than the Vikings and obviously the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. I think your takes are fair. I'm not going to get mad at you. I'm not going to say that, I mean, I obviously disagree with you.
I saw those dirty looks though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to give you dirty looks. I'm going with the Vikings as number 3. Again, the Vikings are a team that I'm not really high on. I think a lot of people are overrating this team. I'm not saying they're going to be bad by any means. I just don't think that this team is as good as everyone is saying they're going to be. I do think Justin Jefferson, obviously, record-breaking, phenomenal rookie year. And I do think he's going to have a minor step back. I don't think he's going to fall off completely, but I still think his stats are going to just plummet a little bit.
He's have a little sophomore slump.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be that big. It's going to be slightly below his stats from last year. Kirk Cousins will continue to put up numbers, have big games, but I still think that Kirk Cousins is a guy where you look at his stats and they don't really result in what they should be resulting in. They don't result in wins. They result in just a lot of stats. And Maya's a guy who's really high on Kirk Cousins, and I don't really understand it. I think Kirk Cousins is a really good quarterback, but I think Maya looks at the stats too much, and a lot of people as well look at Kirk Cousins' stats too much, and they overrate him as a quarterback.
I think Maya is gonna be known for overrating people.
Yeah.
All said and done.
Yeah. I do think Kirk Cousins though is gonna have a good year again stat wise. This team, as long as you have a Mike Zimmer led defense, you're gonna be, you're gonna compete this year.
I like their defense.
Yeah, I like the defense, and on paper this team is really good. It's just that I'm not too sure how they're gonna mesh, and I still think this team's gonna be competitive this year. Just don't think they're gonna be that number 2 spot because I see the Bears edging them out. So go ahead with your number
Third.
2.
Second, I have the Vikings. They have a very good young defense all coming back this year. As we all know, they were just absolutely horrible on defense last year because of all their injuries. They signed Patrick Peterson. Justin Jefferson's coming back. Adam Thielen's coming back. Can't wait to hit that the little gritty.
The gritty? Okay.
And Kirk Cousins, I'll agree with you on that take. I won't lie. We all seen his primetime record.
Which is unfair to him. I think that primetime record is unfair, though. Watching it, there are certain games where
the way the teams that he gets to play against in those primetime games just aren't fair to anybody. But yeah, I think Dalvin Cook also coming back. Probably a top 3 running back in this league. Last year, he wasn't the best. I was gonna go out on a limb and say he was the best.
At times he looked like the best.
But then there's a guy named Derrick Henry in Tennessee.
Yeah, but at times he did. From a week-to-week basis, he looked like.
At times, yeah. But the problem with this team is again with their O-line. They haven't revamped it whatsoever. Kirk Cousins has been getting hit a lot, and he kind of reminds me of Russell Wilson. You know how Russell Wilson gets on these hot starts?
Yeah. And
no disrespect to Seattle, by the way. But he gets on these hot starts and he starts to dwindle.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's how Kirk is. And don't get me wrong, I think that they can beat the Packers. We've seen it last year. They're beatable. Dalvin Cook went off 4 touchdowns, but it's just not this year. I think Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams have something up their sleeve.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of if they can win games. I think it's a matter of if they can win enough to, lock up that wildcard spot or even that first spot for the division. But another weakness about this team is their secondary. I do like the signing of Patrick Peterson, but again, their secondary still doesn't look good at all. I think it's going to be a continuing issue for this year and maybe even next year.
And if you watched him last year, you can see his talent and his fire that he once had just dwindle.
Yeah, and his age is really starting to catch up to him.
Exactly.
But I do like that signing though. But again, I think that's something to watch for this team is their secondary. Now, the second team, I have the Bears. Again, I'm really high on Justin Fields, and I do think there are some interesting plot lines that we're going to see this year. When it comes to Andy Dalton, again, there's a lot of stuff that Andy Dalton and Justin Fields have been saying. Justin Fields, after his first preseason game, said that it felt kind of slow to him, Which, I mean, I don't really take it as him saying that it was too easy or anything. I just agree with a player like that. He's gonna think it's slow going against the backups. And again, he's been also taking some first team reps in practice, so he's gonna see it as kind of slow. So I don't really.
That's one of a top 5 defense that he's going up every day, almost.
Debatably a top 5 defense, yeah. And then Andy Dalton saying that Justin Fields is gonna have a phenomenal career. Just Andy Dalton's time is now, which I completely disagree with because he's been going 3 and out a lot. So, but yeah, I'm really high on this team. I don't think this team is gonna be the number 1 team. I still think the Packers are on top by every category. But Justin Fields, I think he's gonna obviously start a few games this year. But when you look at that first game of the season, they play the Los Angeles Rams with Aaron Donald on that defensive line. I think that's a game where you need to start Andy Dalton because you do not want to throw your quarterback into the fire like that. And a perfect example of that is this morning. Justin Fields took a nasty hit to the head, and his offensive line still isn't good enough. And it's still early on in the year. It's still preseason. Offensive lines usually take a while to get that chemistry going, get the communication going. So I do think throwing Justin Fields into the fire that early against that defense, which is ranked number 1 last year, I think that's not going to work for them. But again, week 2 you do play the Bengals, so I do think that's a game where you should throw Justin Fields in, and I still think that that's a game where he could succeed in.
Yeah, the Bengals I feel like will improve heavily on defense this year. It's just they're not compared.
They're not the Rams.
The Los Angeles Rams.
And let's not forget that they're also after that they play the Browns, who are revamped on defense. They play the Raiders, average on defense. They play the Packers. That was a shot at Isaac. They play the Packers, the Bucks, Niners, Steelers again, and the Ravens. So there's really, after that week 2 game, there's really no other time to really start Justin Jefferson.
Justin Fields.
I keep on saying Justin Jefferson. I'm sorry, Justin Fields. Again, and this defense is still good. They're still a phenomenal defense. Khalil Mack is still a really good edge rusher. Again, his stats are down, but he's also getting a lot of attention from other teams.
Pressures are there still.
Yeah, and they still have a lot of talent on offense for Justin Fields. They still have Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney. They signed Marquise Goodwin, who took a year off because of COVID. So, I mean, he's still a speedy receiver.
But a move that pissed me off that they did is that they traded away Anthony Miller. I didn't like that at all.
I didn't like that either, but, I mean, I don't think it was that big of a deal, I still think they have talent. And still have David Montgomery, Terry Cohen. And, again, their offensive line got going later on in the year. I remember against the Vikings, they had a game where they rushed for almost 200 yards. So I think this offensive line has talent, and they're just a few pieces away from getting them a solid offensive line. So, yeah, I think this team is going to be competitive, and this year is all about seeing what Justin Fields had.
No way.
Patrick, tally that. How many times did you see Justin Jefferson? All right.
Oh, my God.
Enough of this team. All right, go ahead with your number 1 team.
So since we both have the number 1 team here, I want to basically just share off what we think.
Okay.
I think this being the Packers, possibly their last dance, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, their bad boy Pistons are still in the NFC. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think Aaron Rodgers goes for MVP again this year. I think it happens. You got the band back together, Randall Cobb. They even tried getting Jordy Nelson back out of retirement.
I know.
Which is unbelievable. But another thing is their defense. Have they signed anybody on defense to help them get over that?
They haven't really made any moves, but I mean, I don't think it's a roster thing at this point. I think it's more of just putting it together when they need to, stepping up.
Hopefully they step it up. But this window is closing.
Closing?
Yeah,
I think it's closing fast as well.
Closing fast.
Yeah. Are you done with your pick, or?
Oh yeah.
Are you done? Okay. Yeah. To piggyback off of what Little Man said. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, in his press conference, he obviously said how he feels about this organization. Says that he feels kind of offended that he's not even in the conversations for roster moves, and saying what he knows his self-worth. He knows what he means to that organization, and he's obviously offended that he's not in these talks. I do think this is a FU year, kind of to the GM, to maybe even Matt LaFleur. It's a year for him to prove that organization wrong. And again, he has his number 1 receiver who's on board with him, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is again, he's going to have another phenomenal year. I think he's arguably the number 1 receiver in the NFL.
I think that kind of puts a place on where their relationship is, though. Not a lot of people, not a lot of quarterbacks and wide receivers. Mm-hmm. If one's upset, then the other one is upset at that one. Like they're never on the same page when one is upset. It always causes a breakthrough within the relationship. But for them to be on the same page is crazy.
Yeah, I think, it's really good that Aaron has someone like that in his corner. And again, I still think a lot of the locker room is still in Aaron's corner than they are in the GM corner.
For sure.
But, again, they're always kind of a lock for a 13-win season. But again, it's just always that NFC Championship game. How many have they lost? 4?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Lost 2 in a row.
2 in a row. I don't know what it is, and it's something that it's not a roster thing. It's just something that you just gotta, something in that locker room. It's just it sucks because Aaron Rodgers has been playing at such a high level for such a long time, and you really only got 1 Super Bowl out of it early on in his prime, Mm-hmm. So I think it sucks, but I still think that they're always in the mix, and I think they are the third best team this year.
I still can't believe he has that 1 ring.
Yeah, it's crazy to me how Aaron Rodgers only has 1 ring. But yeah, and I think at this point, Aaron Rodgers, anything he does, he could throw for 80 touchdowns in a season. It's not going to change that organization, not going to change how they view him. It's not going to change how he's not in these talks, not considered for anything important. So yeah, it just sucks to see that with the Packers. But I do agree this is a last dance type of thing. And again, with your Bad Boys Pistons take, they still have to face the Buccaneers. All right, let's go ahead and transition over to the AFC. The AFC North.
This one is going to be a good one.
I agree.
I have some friends that I go play basketball with who are Steelers fans. And they think this man, Lorenzo, that's his name, Lorenzo, literally told me he thinks that the Steelers are still better than the Browns. Even though the Browns got all those people and they're getting healthy 100%.
And let's not forget who eliminated the Steelers.
And let's not forget who eliminated and embarrassed them off their own home field. So with that being said, sorry.
No, I'm just saying that a lot of people are looking at the NFC West as the best division, and I think that's a good argument, but this could honestly be a good argument for the best division.
This one for sure.
Yeah.
So going on with this one, at number 4, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people are talking about chit-chatting that Big Ben's going to have a big year, this and that.
No, go ahead.
But let's keep in mind, he lost Villanueva, 6'9" left tackle. He lost David DeCastro to the Seahawks, I believe. His starting center retired.
Yeah.
So who's going to be protecting him this year? Najee Harris is really his best lineman blocking for him. You have Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Eric Ebron, a big 3. As we all know, James Washington requested a trade because of the emergence of Deontay Johnson. The defense is still stacked, don't get me wrong, they get Devin Bush back. I just feel like it's going to be a repeat of last year. They'll start off hot and then they'll start to dwindle mid-season. And I know a lot of Pittsburgh fans are going to hate to hear that, but it's just true. Big Ben hasn't looked the same since he hurt his elbow.
That's a very interesting take. I agree with things that you were saying, but I don't agree where you place them. 4 being the worst in that division that's a hot take. That's a really hot take.
You just said that this division could be one of the best.
Yeah, one of the best. Yeah,
but so anybody can finish anywhere. But you saying that having that 4 is crazy?
I think it's a little bit crazy. Simply because my 4 team, the Bengals. The Bengals.
Let's hear it.
A bunch of people keep on posting about their wide receiver trio, Joe Mixon. Don't even get me started on Joe Mixon. Jeremiah drafts me every year in fantasy. It doesn't make sense to me. But
has he won a championship yet?
I don't think Maya's won a championship yet. But Joe Burrow, I still think he's a phenomenal quarterback, and I feel like all the hype kind of died around him because of last year, which is kind of insane to me, having one of the best, maybe the best college season of all time, and people are just, the hype is falling off of him. I still think it's highly questionable about their first-round draft pick, Jamar Chase. I do think that Jamar Chase is a good receiver. Obviously, he didn't look good in his first.
Yeah, a lot of
first
people are doubting him.
But again, people just overvalue the preseason a lot. It happens every year. I just think people are just in a drought for football. Anything they see, they like to overanalyze. And but I just don't think this team is going to be good at all because the offensive line, which is the most important position group in the NFL, you haven't done anything to solidify that offensive line. And that offensive line is the reason why Joe Burrow got hurt. Is the reason why he tore his ACL. You haven't really done anything. I do think they've made some moves on defense. But again, I just don't think it's enough to compete.
Talk about.
Yeah, but it's not enough to compete with the top 3 teams in this division. But I do think they're going to be really competitive. And that offense, T. Higgins, Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, I still think, and of course Joe Burrow, that's going to be an interesting offense to watch. Just you have to solidify those big boys.
But the big thing about that for next season has to be the O-line, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the fans are mad that they didn't get Penei Sewell just sitting there. He even said himself, the man himself said that he would love to block for Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Who wouldn't love to block for Joe Burrow?
Exactly. That's what he did last year when he missed all 5 of his linemen against the Tennessee Titans.
Against the Titans.
4-1, 5-1. Blew him out of the water.
It doesn't make sense to me. And again, the Bengals are that organization that they continue to make move after move, and it's just they're head scratching. So go ahead with your number 3 team.
Number 3, piggyback off what you said.
Okay.
I have the Cincinnati Bengals because of their young talent. They're gonna be like a team like the Panthers in the last video I said. They're gonna be exciting to watch, and it's gonna be hard for me to skip their games when I'm going through the Red Zone channels and stuff like that. But I really like Joe Burrow. I love Joe Mixon. I like the fact they signed Chidobe Awuzie, Trey Hendrickson. I think they're in for a good run this year. You know, I'll even give them a record prediction.
Okay, go
I'll go
ahead.
9-8.
9-8.
I'll go 9-8.
You realize you have to play these teams in their division 6 times.
Yeah. I think they could beat the Steelers. I think they could beat the Ravens. Hell, they beat the Steelers. They beat the Steelers in Cincy with Brandon Allen at quarterback.
So 9 wins. I'll hold you to that.
9-8. Hold me to it.
I'll hold you to that. 9 wins. Is that you're done with your take?
Yeah. Am I done with my take? Yes, I'm done with my take.
Alright, whatever. Anyways, my number 3 team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers, again, last year, I think all 3 of us here at 3 Guys on Mike Studios, all 3 of us were not high on the Steelers. We don't think they were as good as their record was.
That was probably one of our best, basically, like, you know what I'm trying to say, predictions.
I get you.
That was going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't think that they were as good as everyone was saying they were. I do think they were a good team last year. You don't win 12 games by accident. But I still don't think that they were that number 1 team last year.
It's just the fact how close they were in those games.
Yeah, and that's one of my points. There was a lot of games last year that they should have lost, and games that any good team wouldn't look like that. They really played down to their competition. There was a game that really stood out to me was the Cowboy game. The Cowboy game was a game where it was like, how are they this close with this team? Especially with Dak Prescott being hurt. How are you that close with that team? And you're considered maybe the best team in the NFL last year. Somewhere along the line, this team, I'm mad. I am mad. Colin Cowherd said this on The Herd, and it got me mad because I was going to say this. And somewhere along the line, the Steelers became this like frightening, hard-nosed football team. And last year, it was just a circus, pretty much. You have, in recent history, Le'Veon Bell and the offensive line kind of having that feud about his money, about him holding out, stuff like that. You have Antonio Brown on the sidelines doing things. And we see he's kind of got his head on straight now, but for a year or 2, he was just kind of going off the walls. You have Big Ben, who is saying things. You have Chase Claypool, who's saying things about the Browns. And it's just somewhere along the line. And let's not forget Juju with this TikTok stuff. I don't have a problem with the TikTok stuff, but I do have a problem with like everything else going on with it, dancing on the logos. You know what I mean? Like, you can make TikTok videos, just not the logos.
Let's not forget TJ Watt this year. He's holding out right now.
He is?
Because of a new contract. He wants a new contract.
I haven't heard of it.
And I'm screwed because I have him on my fantasy team, so I really hope he signs that contract. TJ, please.
I actually hope he doesn't sign that contract. I hope TJ Watt goes somewhere else.
The Eagles?
I hope he goes to the Eagles. I don't want the Steelers to succeed by any means. I don't like this team. But yeah.
But you have him 3rd. And you thought it was crazy
Yeah,
for me.
I don't like him, but I'm still having him 3rd. But I'm just saying, somewhere along the line, this team just became a circus. But I still think that this team is really good. Again, Big Ben hurt his elbow. Missed, I think, how many games did he play 2 years ago? 4 games?
I think that was week 2.
So he didn't play like a game and a half?
Seahawks, yeah.
Yeah, so I still think Big Ben had a really good year last year. I don't know what Little Man's talking about, saying that Big Ben hasn't been good. I think Big Ben had...
I said he hasn't looked the same.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, that's obviously going to happen with age. And with that injury. I'm just saying, like, he's still a good quarterback. And I still think that this team could beat up on the weaker teams. But when it comes to the top 2 teams in this division, I think it's going to be harder for them.
They couldn't even beat on the weaker teams last year.
Well, I mean...
From that half, from the first half of the season, maybe. The second half, it was hard for them to win.
That's true. Alright, number 2 team.
Number 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of people with Lamar Jackson, it's either you love him or you hate him. And I think that it's kind of growing on me. Simply because I think he's improved every year as a passer. Don't get me wrong. But it's just the Ravens in the playoffs, there's always something missing. When I watch the playoff games that they lose, And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it falls on Lamar or... But to me, it's more on the defense when I see their losses. It doesn't seem like they're always there. So this year, I hope that kind of like doesn't happen at all. Because you re-signed Derek Wolfe. You still have Calais Campbell, who a lot of people say is a great locker room guy. Marcus Peters, Chuck Clark, Marlon Humphrey. 2 top corners in the league, if you ask me. But with the offense, I expect JK, one of my favorite running backs on my fantasy team. I think he's going to have a breakout year for sure. I mean, he had a great rookie year last year.
Yeah.
And they drafted Rashad Bateman. He was the jump ball receiver that the Ravens needed. This guy, I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", long frame. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of Des Bryant. I'm not even going to lie.
I can see that comparison.
They get Sammy Watkins, a speedster, who's kind of had a downfall in these last 2 years with his production. But I still think this team finishes 2. And I see them going head-to-head with the Browns.
Okay.
Just those 2. The Titans of the AFC North.
Yeah. Touching on Rashad Bateman, he's the type of receiver that I said that the Ravens needed, especially to, have Lamar exceed in that passing game. I think he needs a big body receiver, with the large radius, with the large catch radius. Because I think Hollywood Brown is a good receiver. I just don't think he's a number 1 by any means, especially because of his size. There's a lot of other things that are going on with him. Last year, complaining about the attention he was getting. Oh, yeah. He wasn't getting the ball enough. And I do think he has potential. And Lamar has potential to be a great passer as well. I don't think he's a horrible passer, but I don't think he's great by any means. A lot of people like to point out his touchdown passes, his MVP season. Touchdown passes don't necessarily mean you're a great passer. And keep in mind, you could throw a check down to a running back. He could run into the end zone. That's a touchdown pass.
And if you watch that Rams game where he had 5 touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, on Monday Night Football.
You tell me which one was over 30 yards.
Yeah.
Tell me they weren't all in the red zone.
Yeah, and that's not to say that Lamar is horrible. I don't think Lamar is horrible at all. People like to take that out of context. When you don't say that Lamar is a great passer, they think that you're just trying to, you know what I'm trying to say.
He's done in the NFL.
Yeah, and again, another thing of that is last year in the Titans game had a horrible interception, a horrible throw. So I think
the game was over at that point. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, when I saw him throwing like that, I was like, it's gonna be hard. And a lot of people are saying that they figured out Lamar this year. I think this year is a year, not that they figure him out, because I think it's really hard to figure out a player that talented, but they are going to try to slow him down. I think you're going to start scheming on him, but he still has talent across the board on offense. And that defense, when you see what that defense did to Derrick Henry last year in the playoffs, holding him to 40 yards, they can do anything, especially when they put their mind to it, and when they take something personal like that, I think they can do anything.
So this team isn't making no TikToks against them.
I know this team's still going to be really good. They're always going to be in the mix. They're always well coached, but I just have the Browns on top of them slightly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that brings us to number 1, and just like the last division, just kind of share what we think about this and why we put him there. But I put him there simply due to the fact because Kevin Stefanski, his first year, changed it around.
That's true.
Automatically. Drastically, actually. And this year, with all the people they've signed, Jadeveon Clowney, Anthony Walker from the Colts, John Johnson, Troy Hill. They drafted safety again. Greedy Williams finally might play after being in the league for 2 years, and I barely even see him on the field. I'm excited for this team, and I think it's their time to shine after a long drought of countless years of having 3 to 5 wins almost constantly.
Yeah,
I think it's their time to shine.
And not having any consistency at the quarterback position.
Exactly.
Either.
And Baker Mayfield is their guy for sure. The star-studded receivers in OBJ and Jarvis, and then let's not forget about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. Some more names. Obviously, Denzel Ward is going to be there, shutdown cornerback. But their rookie that I still can't pronounce his name, Jeremiah Owusu.
Just say J.O.K.
Yeah, J.O.K. That guy. They also signed Malik Jackson from the Eagles. Who,
oh my god!
When he is healthy,
I was playing Madden the other day, and when I saw him on that team, I didn't think
you just use Madden. Okay, but yeah, I think Malik Jackson is a really good defensive lineman, especially when he is healthy. He could really cause some havoc to that offensive line. But yeah, again, I think Baker is their guy moving forward, and this sounds really weird, considering that pretty much for all my life the Browns haven't been good. It sounds really weird having them at the top of this division.
Anybody's life.
Not anybody's. I mean, there's older people.
But
you get what I mean. Like anyone around our age group, it sounds weird.
Anybody who watches is probably.
Yeah, probably. And again, looking at last year, Kevin Stefanski's his first year, and they win a playoff game, especially dealing with COVID in that building. They had a COVID outbreak. They had to deal with that. Then they go to Kansas City. I think they somewhat lucked out with the Mahomes situation with the injury, but nonetheless, they still were competitive, and it was Baker's second playoff game, and they still performed really well. And I do think they're going to build off of that. And again, I just think it comes to the head-to-head matchups with the Ravens.
I still can't believe they lost to them twice last year.
Especially in that first game when you get blown out like that, and then the other game when Lamar poops his pants and then comes back, and it's a heartbreaking loss. So I still think this team is going to be really good, but I think if they split with the Ravens, they're set off. They're well off. What am I saying? Yeah, I think if you split with the Ravens, that's a huge thing because you can't get swept by this team again.
Alright, I'm gonna say one thing. Alright, you can agree to disagree. You guys can argue about it in the comments wherever you want. Come at us on Instagram. But I think the Browns take week 1 in Kansas City.
I don't think so. I do think that they have a strong chance. I'm not saying that, I still think that it's really close. That's going to be a really good game. But I think just the Chiefs having their fans back at full strength, I think that's going to be at full strength. Because they had fans there, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So having them at full strength. But yeah, I do think this defense could cause some havoc for. I'm getting too much into week 1, but I think they're going to give Mahomes a little bit of trouble with that new defense. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
That's true.
But yeah, I still think the Browns are that number 1 team. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And in the future, I think that it's going to come down to the Chiefs, Browns, and Bills.
In
Those are the 3 teams in the AFC that you're going to have to look at and say, can I win a championship? I have to beat them to win a championship.
I agree with you. I do agree.
Like how everyone saw the Patriots when Tom Brady was there. The
It's
only way I'll get a ring is if I get through them.
Yeah. I think right now it's neck and neck with the Bills and the Browns for that number 2 spot, But I still think the Chiefs are on top.
I just can't wait to see OBJ play again.
That's another thing. OBJ, who tore his ACL less than a year ago.
Keep in mind, he was trying to make a tackle for his team.
Yeah.
He went all out, and unfortunately, didn't end up the way he wanted it to.
Yeah, and he looks great in practice. He looks fully healthy.
I'll be honest, I haven't even seen a clip of him.
You haven't?
But I'll believe you. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, he looks phenomenal, but I still don't think he's gonna be practice speed is different than game speed. But I still think that he's still gonna
I want to say, how did this man fall to? I think it was the 4th round of our fantasy draft.
It was more than that.
OBJ. I think he was like the 80-somethingth pick. And I stole him. I don't know how. I don't know
for me. I was going to draft him because no one else was drafting him, and he drafted him. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching the episode. Any feedback would be tremendous. Make sure to keep on liking and subscribing and sharing our videos. It'll mean a lot to us. This is something that we want to do for the rest of our lives. We want to make a living off of this. And make sure to show Jeremiah some support on TikTok.
On TikTok.
Yeah,
he calls it the talk.
Don't pay attention to that. But he's been doing his thing on there. He's been putting in the work. Again, he's dealing with a lot with work, school, football. So
I think some of those videos are at his job too. I can tell from the background.
Yeah, they're at his job or something. I don't know. He's somewhere. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time.